In this period, we will discuss about wave nature of matter. In the last topic, that is in photoelectric effect, we have seen that radiation is behaving like particles. Also, we studied about Compton effect that shows conclusively that radiation behaves like matter particles. So, radiation behaves both as waves as well as matter particles. So, it exhibits dual nature. That is what we studied in the previous topics. Now, we'll discuss the converse one. So, when radiation can exhibit dual nature, scientists thought that why matter should not exhibit such a dual behavior or dual nature. So, since the nature has symmetry, it loves symmetry, it also must, the matter also must exhibit dual nature, that is wave nature as well as particle nature. So, it was de Broglie, a French scientist, who proposed a hypothesis that the wavelength associated with the matter particles is given by lambda is equal to h by p, where p is the momentum of the particle. So, that is h by mass into velocity with which the particle is moving. So, every particle in motion will exhibit wave behavior. That is what he said. But you know the value of h is of the order of 10 power minus 34. Therefore, for macroscopic bodies, large bodies, we cannot observe the wave behavior. So, let us see a simple calculation taking the mass of a ball-like object B, say some 0.12 kg, moving with a speed of say some 20 meters per second. So, substituting the Planck's constant value and the mass and velocity values in this equation, if you calculate, the wavelength comes out to be some 2.76 into 10 power minus 34 meters. So, you see the value is very, very small. And such small lengths cannot be measured by any method. So, that's why we cannot see the wave behavior associated with macroscopic bodies. But you can see in the case of particles such as electrons, protons, etc. That is in the case of subatomic particles. Now, consider an electron of mass m and charge E is accelerated from rest by a potential V volts. Then the kinetic energy acquired by such an electron is given by V times E. So that already you know this. And you know the relation between kinetic energy and the linear momentum, that is P square by 2m. So, therefore, P is equal to square root of 2m V into E. So, I used V into E in the place of K. Therefore, from the de Broglie's relation lambda h by, instead of P you use this equation. So, root of 2m VE. So, substituting the values of mass and charge of an electron and Planck's constant, this comes out to be so 1.227 by root of V nanometers. So, if you know the accelerating voltage, then you can calculate the wavelength associated with the electron. Suppose if you are accelerating the electron by a voltage of 120 volts, then the wavelength comes out to be 0.112 nanometers. So, such values are measurable experimentally, because it is of the order of spacing between the atomic planes in a crystal. So, as you have done in X-ray diffraction, a similar technique can be used to observe electron diffraction. So, experimentally, it was observed by Davison and Germer that electrons show this diffraction phenomena. And you know, the diffraction phenomena is a property or characteristic of waves. So, they measured the wavelength from the scattering experiments, that is from the diffraction experiment of electrons by crystal planes. So they got some very near value of this 0.112 nanometers. So therefore they proved that electrons also behave like waves. So in that way we can say that in the case of subatomic particles with certain velocity or with certain momentum, their wave behavior can be observed. So the experiments also confirmed the existence of matter waves. Now let us find out what is the wavelength in the case of a photon. So you know, for a photon the momentum is given by h nu by c. That is what we learned when we studied about properties of photons. So h nu is the energy of the quanta and c is the speed of light, and nu is equal to c lambda. So therefore what you get is h by lambda. Therefore lambda is equal to h by p. Again you got the same de Broglie equation. That is, a photon which is a particle we are considering has a wavelength similar to that of a particle wave. So we can show that particles behaving like waves and waves behaving like particles. So that dual nature of particles can also be understood from this argument. Also we can observe that the uncertainty principle proposed by Heisenberg also justifies the existence of matter waves. So what is Heisenberg's uncertainty principle? Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. So according to this principle, it is not possible to find both position and momentum of a particle exactly at the same time. That means if you locate the position of a particle like electron or any atom at a time, if the position is exact, then there will be uncertainty in its momentum, or if the momentum is exact, then there will be uncertainty in position. So the product of uncertainties in position and momentum will have a finite value. According to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, this product delta x into delta p is nearly equal to h cut. So delta x is the uncertainty in position, delta p is the uncertainty in momentum. So here h cut means it is nothing but h by 2 pi. Now let us reconsider again. Let us come to this de Broglie's equation. So suppose if an electron has a definite momentum, so if the momentum is definite, then it will have a definite wavelength according to this equation. So a wave having a definite wavelength will spread over a space. That means consider an electron having a definite momentum, then from de Broglie's equation it will have a definite wavelength. So it has a definite wavelength means it will spread over a region. So when it spreads over the region of space, then its position is not localized. So since its position is not localized, it will have an uncertainty in position which tends to infinity. So it will have, but actually the position uncertainty cannot be infinity. So if this is infinity, then then what happens? This delta x and delta p should have a finite value, means if delta x is infinity, then delta p must be 0. So that is not correct. Therefore, and according to Born's approximation, the uncertainty in position cannot be infinity, but the electron will has a finite uncertainty in position. Therefore, in order to explain this concept in quantum mechanics, scientists developed a concept called as wave packets. Wave packet. So a wave packet is nothing but it is a built-up of wavelengths spread around a certain wavelength. So it's a built-up of wavelengths spread around a certain wavelength. So it consists of several wavelengths. So it is something like overlapping of several wavelengths, and it will have a finite spread. So instead of saying that it spreads over the entire region, so they say, according to quantum mechanics, they say that, scientists say that it spreads over a finite region, and we call that as wave packet. So electron waves can be treated as wave packets, and this wave packets concept, together with de Broglie's hypothesis and Born's hypothesis, that is the probability condition, they reproduce Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Similarly, the delta p, that is the momentum, is also not localized, or it will not also will spread infinitely to an infinite region. So it will spread over a finite region, and hence, so delta p also will have a finite spread, as the delta x has a finite spread. So the de Broglie's hypothesis, along with wave packet concept and Born's approximation condition, together again reproduces the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Okay, now the wave behavior of particles is well proved by two scientists, that is Davison and Germer. So now we will discuss about the experimental procedure or method by which the wave behavior of electrons were found. Now, this is the arrangement which shows the experimental setup made by Davison and Germer. So, an electron beam is produced using a filament connected to a low tension battery and is accelerated towards a collimator by applying a positive potential to the collimator, through which a narrow beam of electrons comes out. So to provide a large positive potential, a high tension battery with a potential divider is connected to the collimator. So the collimated beam of electrons are made to fall on nickel target, nickel crystal, and the electrons are diffracted by the atomic planes present in the crystal. So the diffracted electron beam or electrons are collected by a movable collector, so which can be moved over a semicircular scale. So for in different directions you can measure the diffracted electron beam current, because this movable collector is connected to a galvanometer for measuring the electronic current. So the angle can also be measured with the help of this circular scale. So for different positions of the movable collector, the strength of the diffracted electron beam in the form of is measured with the help of the galvanometer. So by drawing the graphs between the intensity of the diffracted electron beams and the angle of diffraction for different accelerated potentials. So the potential difference between that filament and anode is varied some 40 to 55 or so. So at different accelerated potentials, they measured the intensity of the diffracted electron beam with respect to the angular position of the collector. So it was found that for an angle of 50 degrees position, the intensity for 54 volts accelerating potential, the intensity of the beam is maximum. So the maximum intensity of electron beam shows that the electron beams diffracted from different atomic planes are overlapping. So something like interference is taking place, and hence the intensity peak is observed at that particular position of the detector. So in that way they could prove that the electrons undergo diffraction phenomena and they overlap, that is just like waves, they are exhibiting interference phenomena also. And they could calculate the wavelength of the diffracted electron waves. So the wavelength experimentally determined is found to be nearly 0.165 nanometers. So that is the experimentally determined wavelength of diffracted electron waves. And using de Broglie, that is the equation just now we derived, that is 1.227 by square root of V. So using that equation, that is theoretical equation, if you calculate the wavelength of the electron beam for 54 volts accelerating potential, so that is 1.227 by root of V. Using this formula, if you calculate, it comes out to be nearly 0.167 nanometers for a potential of 54 volts. So this is the experimentally determined value, this is theoretically calculated value. So both are very good in agreement, so they are agreeing with each other. So that means the experimentally verified value of wavelength of electrons is matching with the theoretical value, shows that electrons are behaving like waves, and that was proved through this experiment. Not only that, in 1989 scientists could observe double slit experiment with electron beam. So you might have studied about Young's double slit experiment to observe the interference phenomena of light waves. So similarly, the interference phenomena of electron waves observed with double slit in 1989 by scientists. Other than that, in 1994 or so, scientists observed the diffraction or you can say interference experiment with iodine molecules also. These iodine molecules are several million times bigger than electrons. So with iodine molecules also they could observe the wave behavior, that is interference phenomena and diffraction phenomena of particle waves. So that shows that conclusively proves that matter waves exist, that is particles also exhibit this wave-like phenomena. Okay, and another important point is the de Broglie's hypothesis justifies Bohr's quantization condition used to explain hydrogen-like spectra. So we will discuss in the chapter of atoms. So we know already that Niels Bohr proposed a theory to explain the spectra of hydrogen-like atoms. So he made a very important assumption that the angular momentum of electrons are quantized. that quantization condition is very important in explaining the spectra of hydrogen-like atoms. So that condition can be justified with the help of de Broglie's hypothesis. So that we will discuss in the chapter atoms. So with this chapter is over.